Hello. How was it? Not breakfast, not lunch, the other thing.
The snack?
Snack.
Yeah.
Everyone got enough sugar? Hi. Most of you probably already have known me since the opening. I'm Mario. I work for Kubermatic, and but the most important thing is in Kubernetes, I am a co-chair for CIQ Contrib-X, and that you don't only listen to me talking about social media where I'm really bad at. I have brought Chris with me.
Hey y'all, I'm Chris and supposedly good at social media now. I work at CIQ. I'm also a co-lead of the Kubernetes contributor comms team. We're going to talk about that today. So, a little history. Back in the day, we had community meetings. Anybody remember those by chance? No? Yes? One? Go ahead.
One question. Who of you is of Kubernetes project? That's good. You're in the right session.
Yes. So yeah, back in the day we had these community meetings and it used to just be a bunch of people on one Zoom call. Then we outgrew Zoom as a project. And then it was, oh, we're on Zoom, but now we're live streaming to YouTube. And then we outgrew that. So what do we have now that dropped in its place? Well, it all started with an idea. And every good story starts in Paris, right? Not that Paris, though. That one. Paris Pittman decided she wanted to stand up a group that was focused on spreading the good word of what's happening in the project. And she named it the marketing team, which, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but like we were automating ways to spread the existing content around. We were jumping in, figuring out what was wrong, ironing out any language issues that could create FUD, for example. And we took ownership and created social media accounts because we saw that there was a gap between the Kubernetes IO account, which was owned by CNCF at the time, and what the contributor community needed. So we have all these Kate's contributors accounts as well. And last year we adopted the official Kubernetes X account on whatever it's called now. Well, I guess I just said it X. But all these things are not marketing in the sense. So in 2023, 4 years from after its creation, we created the contributor comms team. One thing we learned, us folk here don't respond to, quote, marketing well. And I think we all know that inside of us, we don't want to be marketed to. But shockingly, it was needed. So a project of a certain size, past a certain age, clearly there needs to be some kind of communications component to it. That's not Linus. Fair enough. Okay. So, like, obviously messaging is a big deal. It's what we do all the time. But also skills like public speaking really help because it gives you context into what happens when you're addressing a large audience. You get experience with the questions, the kinds of questions you get. So I'm sure there will be a question after this that I will then work into a talk that I do next. So yeah. And then obviously SEO, the dark art that it is. Certain parts of it we have to know and care about, like recent changes to Google using AI-generated things. Oh, well, suddenly our position changes on the page and the right answer is actually not the thing in Google AI. Don't know how to address that yet, but things like titles, descriptions, all that stuff that you would think, oh, this shouldn't matter that much, they actually do. So we say we do some SEO because that's the bucket it's been thrown under. So, we're a communications team. We're communicating, we're automating as much as we possibly can. Most Zoom meetings end up on YouTube automatically. That's thanks to Nigel and work he's done inside Contributor Experience. But we also do some of the same stuff. And this article came out in 2020 trying to pull people in to the comms project, just letting folks know this is the kind of thing you could experience, blogs, social media, messaging, got to work on the websites. Who here knows Hugo really well? Okay. You can come to our meetings on Fridays. We'd like that. So yeah. Yeah, don't be sorry. It's okay. Please tell me that's not. Okay, good. So, surprisingly, one of the skills needed to effectively manage communications is, have you ever dealt with an outage? As in, planned it, communicated it, did it, and then dealt with any issues after the fact. Like that loop right there of managing outages and planned maintenance is a very important skill that you just don't learn anywhere else. Same thing as public speaking, it gives you context in the kinds of questions you're going to be asked. So ultimately, that outage is teaching you something more than just the configuration code, whatever you messed up in the deployment process. It's actually helping you communicate that code out in a way that most people can understand. So, deprecating services takes a lot of planning, implementation, and execution. Deprecation, that's a term. So when you see something like this, and you ignore the word shim because you don't understand what that means, suddenly it's deprecate Docker in the Kubernetes project. This was in, I forget the year, 2020, that went out. People noticed. People got worried. Because same thing happened as far as like what got broadcast out to the world. They just used this title. Well, if you don't know what a shim is, and you don't understand what's going on with Docker runtime images and such, yeah, maybe you could extrapolate. Yeah, Docker's going away inside Kubernetes, and many people associate that workflow with Kubernetes container into, pods kind of thing. So yeah, this was a major incident. The funny thing is, we were around, but it wasn't a super popular sub-project. This is what kind of drew us into the fold of the wider project. People realized, oh, we have a thing for this. It's called the comms team. If we would have just bounced this off of them, I wonder if things would have been different. So I can't tell you how much coverage came out of the Docker shim thing that might have been FUD or whatever, because I was actively responding to it. I couldn't see the higher level things. But it was a lesson in how simple words can be interpreted very interestingly. So yeah, thousands of blogs. I went back and looked at the numbers on various searches and everything. Thousands of blogs, dozens of potential news coverage pieces, and obviously social media. The number was very high. Tens of thousands of posts about deprecate Docker. So yeah, the response obviously took a lot of people. George Castro used to work in Contribex. He still does on behalf of the CNCF, but now he's at the CNCF. But he was part of the team that helped manage the blast radius. And this is probably the headline we should have used for that KEP. You do not need to panic. Deprecate Docker shim. So let's look at the mental model a little bit. Docker is a very, very ambiguous word. Are you talking about the company? Are you talking about the engine? Are you talking about the CLI tool? Are you talking about Docker Hub? Are you talking about Docker Desktop? You say the word Docker and people assume things. We did not assume that people would say Docker shim and just drop the last, word of that compound word. So people strongly associated containers with Docker because it popularized them. How many times have we said, containers have been around since none of that landed with anybody, apparently. The Docker container to Kubernetes pipeline was a workflow in everybody's head. So you think it, you build a container image, you push it, and then your cluster picks it up. But nobody realizes that there's OCI in there, there's container D, there's a container runtime interface in Kubernetes, which kind of brought me to another quote from Paris Pittman, no less. Nobody reads. Like, let's take that and put it on a Kubernetes scale. Most people don't know what runtime image they're using. Just like out of the box, they just don't know. That's how far away things have become extracted and things have been simplified. Oh, I use Docker, and then I run that at scale in Kubernetes. Pretty common workflow. Doesn't tell you anything about the actual underlying technologies underneath it. Underlying, yeah, sure. So yeah, because the word Docker and deprecated were in the same sentence, people did not think to read before posting on social media. And they did. So one other thing we noticed, a little after that, probably in the past couple of years, more or less, yeah, the world's changing. We've gone from potentially outdated and incomplete man pages, this screenshot came from the Git man page, to TikTok. People learning how to deploy replica sets in 60 seconds. The nature of learning has changed, so the nature of communication must change. Not everyone's going to join your mailing list. Not everyone's going to follow you on social media. Not everyone's going to, listen to your TikToks. But it's important to be in the places where people should be looking and listening. Shout out to Uma Codes on TikTok for that screenshot I took.
Yeah, and now you're probably wondering, who are the people that are interested in what we have to say? So basically we said there are two different groups. On the one side, we need to inform maintainers and contributors, people that are actively contributing to our project, that are actively working on it. On the other hand, we also have the people that are just consuming, right? They are just like, I use Kubernetes. I want to have some news about Kubernetes. The problem is that we also have like this in-between where a news is interesting for all of the groups. It's like, hey, a patch release is coming out, or we have some critical communication. Critical communication, as Chris already said, is, for example, this whole Docker shim thing that's happened, or, for example, the deprecation of the GCR.io registry that we had in the past. But also we have to have like specific communication for our maintainers, for example, to say like, hey, register for Maintainer Summit, because guess what I did before Maintainer Summit? Most of the projects that were not Kubernetes were not aware that something like this exists. And what I did was I went into every single Slack channel or Discord or whatever communication type the projects had and posted my marketing thing. And this is something that comms also could do, right? So that a team that informs people what's going on. And now we need to basically choose our network. And as we all know, the biggest network is the best network, right? Yeah, so let's choose the biggest network. These are the numbers pulled from last year. I know it's a little bit small, but apparently, according to this, we now need to do marketing on Facebook, then YouTube, and then Instagram. So let's take a step back and see what social media channels are there and how they behave. And because we are in Great Britain, we will explain it by fish and chips. So obviously there's like a different message that you want to convey throughout the different channels. So like, I would say like how would you classify Blue Sky and Twitter and Threads? It's like this one-off thing, like I am now going to get chips, or on fish and chips, or on LinkedIn it's more like, hey, I'm a professional fish and chips eater, because company and business. And TikTok, of course, is, hey, I'm dancing with my fish and chips. So there you have basically you need to produce different content for different social media channels because the audience is used to a different style of how they get those messages. The problem is, as you already see, there's a lot of social media channels that are available, and you need to fill all of them. No, you don't. So basically, you need to figure out which network do I need to, or where are my users? So where can I find my users? And the good thing is, for most of your projects, this already has been chosen, although you never did anything in there. Because there are content creators that talk about your projects already, and they are already on specific platforms. So you basically can look up content creators who talk about your projects, just scan the different social media channels. For example, we looked at Threads and looked for Kubernetes, and there was like, yeah, no result. So no one on Threads is talking about Kubernetes, so we don't have to have it as our social media channel. So pass. We have a social media channel that is really relatively small. We will get to this in a second, which is on Mastodon. And we will probably deprecate it because there's only like 300 people and no one is interacting with it. So we won't continue this. So there's like, you also don't need to be afraid of dropping a social media channel. It's okay to leave things behind. Also, what content type are you able to produce? It's nice if you want to go to TikTok, but do you have the resources to do dance videos about your project? To film them? Do you have people that really want to produce video content? Also, select channels that are used by similar projects. So look for other projects on which social media channels are they running. Also, check if you already have existing channels, because some we found Kubernetes.io Twitter account lying around and no one was using it, and then we just claimed it back. So we defined a list. And this is basically the current active list of the Kubernetes project where we actively put content out. The numbers behind it are the current followers, or however you call it, in the different networks. Sometimes you recognize we have two numbers there. When we have two numbers there, it's when we have multiple channels. Again, the one where we said like, who are we addressing? Are we addressing end users? Are we addressing contributors? So we see that our biggest channel for now is still Twitter, with over 320,000 people that are engaged on those accounts. I mean, we probably have a ton of bots and a ton of inactive accounts, but still, it's the biggest number. I mean, we still have other means where we don't have info, like our mailing lists, Slack members. I think Slack is also quite big. We have a newsletter which is called LWKD. There our statistics are broken, I'm sorry. As soon as we have them again, we will publish them. But yeah, basically these are the channels where we selected that this is the way to go. Of course, who here is a sandbox project? Who is an incubating project? Who is a graduated project? Given the size, I would argue also by the amount of maintainers and contributors, you should not like go all in and say like we go to all channels and we will play to all channels. It's always resources that you need to think about and to configure. Also, you can start small. I mean, we started with the Twitter account. Yeah. Exactly. The question is now, which content goes where? So we defined that we have different channels, and now we basically say, okay, these are our channels where we go. So this is the content where we send our content. And fun fact is that a lot of end users are actually on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is really, really fast growing. And there are also the possibility of interacting with groups and stuff like this. And we also have, of course, the Twitter account. We have Blue Sky, obviously, because a lot of folks move to Blue Sky. The problem is, it's still a lot of things. And you see also YouTube. the funny thing is, we don't actually produce video content. The only thing that we do on YouTube is upload our meetings that are automatically recorded, and we also do the recordings of the contributor summits in the past, and now the Kubernetes sessions on the maintainer summit that will go on there. So we decided, because it's a lot of work, automate all the things. Which means that we use tools to automate social media. An important note on this, because you might not be aware, you can request funding from CNCF for those automation accounts. So we have a professional account that is paid by the CNCF for Buffer and for Zapier, so that we can actually use them, use those automations in a good way. The great thing is that you also get usage statistics that you can say, like, we need those accounts because we have them. And yeah, this is our growth. I know it's really tiny, so on the upper left, it's LinkedIn. So this is our growth for last year. This is only last year. This is nothing. So from March 31st until March 31st, so until today. We have on the left, we have LinkedIn. On the right, we have the Kubernetes.io Twitter account. You're wondering what those gaps are. One was the the election, and the second bump was the inauguration. And below this is the Kubernetes contributor account on Twitter. And the problem is with Blue Sky, they don't have statistics yet in a good way. But we grew Blue Sky from 0 to 6,000 users from November until today. So you see that.
What was the source of that growth?
Yeah, the source was basically publishing it here on the maintainers, on the contributor summit, and it was also like cross-posting on other social media channels, because you can do cross-posting and you can move people over. The problem is we overestimated our own capabilities. So this is our content plan for KubeCon. And that's the amount of social media posts that we go out and create for KubeCon, and all of this is handwritten. And all of this needs to be put into a scheduler, put into a schedule and say, like, it needs to go out in a specific time, and this is a lot of work. And we are struggling with it because you need a lot of people to actually maintain those stuff. And I don't know how good all of you are with their own social media presences, if they need to have it for job purpose, but I'm really bad at this. So please always make like a good comparison of what can I achieve and what do I achieve. But the good thing is, when you have comms and you're struggling with finding maintainers, comms also can help you with this.
Oh yeah, I didn't touch on that. So one thing that we did not expect when the marketing team started and then got renamed to comms was how many new people would show up to comms to get involved in Kubernetes. It was a low barrier to entry. You could go from brand new contributor to having your name on one of the websites, Kubernetes.io, Kubernetes.dev, by joining the group, thinking, oh, I might want to join that SIG, and then we say, oh, interesting, we need to do a spotlight on that SIG. Would you like to conduct the interview? Here's how, here's what our recommendations are. If you're going from spoken word to text, don't use video. Don't use audio. Just use text. So we email questions. We don't actually do like a live interview. That way it can be, you don't have to transcribe anything. Lowering every single thing to the lowest common denominator as far as labor goes, great strategy. So yeah, I do get to onboard a lot of people. We do those spotlights. We mentioned LWKD. But then when SIGs need something, like a major change happening, like the Kubernetes registry change, because of previous incidents like the Docker shim debacle, people know we exist now. Not a great way to make yourself famous, right? Like becoming a thing on the internet. But for the registry change, Infra, Sig Kate's Infra, came to us early, very early in the process and said, we need to communicate this out. That registry change could have bricked countless Kubernetes clusters. To this day, I still don't know anybody that lost a cluster because of that change. And why was that? Comms did a lot of legwork reaching out to all the different providers. We have people from literally every Kubernetes vendor in Kubernetes Slack. We know those people because we interact with those vendors too, but at the same time, those individuals from those vendors became the mouthpiece of comms inside their companies. I was at AWS at the time, and because we have no idea what was running on what EC2 instance, a message was sent out to all EC2 customers, most of Amazon's customer list, about the Kubernetes registry change. Because we wanted to make sure no one, A, it would lower their bills, first of all, so that's a big incentive. B, it would break their clusters. So we wanted to accomplish both, not break their clusters and lower their bill. So that is right in the sweet spot for doing things at Amazon. What am I missing? Anything?
Yeah, and of course we finish the talk with boring stuff. Policies, rules, and why do we need them? So we have policies for all of our social media channels, or we have one for the major ones, and the problem is that given that you have maybe a large user page, like we have 320,000 people following the Twitter account, is if you put a spotlight on a specific person, it's like it can make them rise or make them fall, and you're becoming queens makers and kings makers with those social media posts, and you need always to be careful. For example, we now agreed that there's a policy that we will never mention in any of the social media channels an individual, to not put a spotlight on something like this. We also say, like, how do we deal with sensitive information that needs to be shared? How do we, what is the type of language, how we speak, that it should be inclusive, that it should not have any racist stuff and so on in it, so that you basically also check how you communicate. And it is also a good way that people can follow their, or new joiners can follow your guidelines. And the good thing is, we have already some of those examples in the Kubernetes repo, so if you're interested, just look it up. There we have guidelines, and we started a PR for guidelines for sensitive communication. So how do I create sensitive communication inside of my project when critical things are happening? Also, the good thing is the CNCF has a guideline for social media that you can also take as an example. This is more focused on the social media channels for the CNCF, but you can pull out specific topics for your own. Also, happy to get input on critical communication guidelines. They are not long. They're not even a DIN A4 page. So, yeah. And with this, have fun in social media and comms, and hashtag you later or something like this. This is awful. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Concerns? We've heard a lot lately.
Oh yeah, yes.
I'm looking at cncf.bsky.social and cncf.io. Is one of those a imposter?
Sometimes, especially with Blue Sky, we've noticed people are trying to be helpful. So especially with Blue Sky, since it is new, people are trying to be helpful and reserving names, but then they don't actually tell the right people they reserve the name. So we found 2 Kubernetes accounts when we took over, or when we started going in there and trying to set up an existing account, and the person was literally very explicit in their, bio. hey, if you need this, let me know. So we told them, and they never responded. We still haven't gotten a response. So a lot of people are trying to be helpful, but it's also creating a identity problem for sure.
Right, so is CNCF.io the real deal?
Probably not.
Daniel, you know, what is the Blue Sky account? Yeah, Katie Greenlee is the right person from CNCF. She's in the CNCF stack, and I think that there is not yet a CNCF strategy for Blue Sky. That's the last thing I read. For Kubernetes, it's kubernetes.io and kubernetes.dev.
Oh yeah, we did set up the domain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard.
Sorry.
What .dev?
Kubernetes.dev. IO.
I was going to suggest, can you maybe briefly talk about Blue Sky verification? But that was kind of with domain.
You did this.
Yeah.
I didn't set it up.
So yeah, the verification step for Blue Sky is pretty simple, but also people don't understand DNS, so it's complicated. All you have to do is put a certain text record in for your domain, and it'll get verified on Blue Sky. Now, we used that function in Blue Sky with the individual kubernetes.io and .dev domains because there's supposed to be a split between the content that's covered on both sites. But this is also a problem because we're now overloading the same team to work on both sites. So there could be a merge, there could be some change happening, but at least with the domain verification, we can actually claim accounts and say, no, those are ours. Whereas on the CNCF.io one, I'm not sure.
So for you, it would be kcp.io.
Yeah, we have that there.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I was just going to say, like the CNCF.io has to be set up by someone from CNCF.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would
Someone that can manage CNCF DNS.
Yeah.
Not actually someone in CNCF. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question? If not, yes.
What about Mastodon?
It's dead.
Okay.
I mean, we have 320 followers, and Chris' personal account is declining in interaction, although he posts the same frequency on all,
Everywhere on my
and Mastodon is dead.
Sorry.
You talked about having an aggressive schedule being a problem. Do you have any guidelines for is it better to post?
Yes.
Yes.
It is better to post consistently. However, you also need to manage it, right? So what we do, and that's automate all the things, every blog post that gets published gets automatically a shout out to all social media platforms, which is content. Then every week we have an LWKD newsletter release, which also gets shout out to any social media. So we have like at least 2 or 3 social media posts that are just automated because it's auto-generated content that goes out. And also for specific reoccurring meetings, we also do the same. So for example, we have the new contributor orientation meeting, which is happening every 3rd Tuesday of every month. And we basically now started to automate the announcement for this because it's content. And the more, so we have a regular information base by week with 4 posts or something like this. For LinkedIn, it's recommended to have at least 2. So we are already like floating atop, so we are not going this minus 30% if you don't post regularly. So my recommendation is if you have something that gets published automatically, just automate it away and then publish it on
Scheduling anything for publication somewhere, and if you're scheduling stuff for publication, Like we use Buffer, for example. They have suggested times for when to post to each individual network, and they constantly shift. So we follow their guidance. We just set up a queue for things to fall in, and then they go out at the right time according to that network for what we're posting.
They have also AI integration. I think we violated our own policy, and we are now using it because it takes away work.
Well, when you give AI a source doc and say, summarize this, it actually makes good social media sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes, but you still have to have a human review it. And then there's the whole moving from a spreadsheet into Buffer and then scheduling and all that fun stuff. So yeah, last KubeCon NA, case in point, CNCF didn't tell us about a couple awards that were new. So Kaslin and Mario were in Utah. I was back home in Michigan. And I got a call for help. Hey, they sprung this on us. Can you post these when you get a chance? And that's how the group is. We're here. Kaslin's back in Seattle, and she's already told us, hey, I'm here if you need us for anything.
Yeah, she scheduled all of the social media posts for today and for tomorrow, so I'm good until Wednesday. I think we are way over time. I'm sorry, Matteo. And thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, just ping us either Kubernetes Slack. There's a 600x.com sub channel. Yep. And I'm also in the CNCF Slack.
Oh, one thing I forgot. We actually have a thing on Slack. It's a username, contributor comms. You could put that in any channel and we'll come running. So another thing we've automated. And here are Bob and Jiffy to break up this crowd.